What are you looking at right now? Is it a screen and pixels or a world that only appears to be there? Hi, I'm John, and today we're diving into one of the strangest and most important questions in philosophy. How do we know anything at all? To help us, we'll turn to one of the clearest thinkers of the 20th century, Bertrand Russell, and his short classic, The Problems of Philosophy. If Socrates was asking us to live and examine life, Russell's asking us to live a life examining reality through the lens of doubt. Russell begins with something ordinary, a table. He writes, "Is there any knowledge in the world which is so certain that no reasonable man could doubt it?" That's how philosophy often begins, with something as basic as a piece of furniture. But look at this table. It looks black and brown, but only here, under this light, from another angle, it shines. It fades, it changes color. Touch it here, it's smooth, rough here. Now, which one is the real table? Russell says none of them exactly. What we see, hear, and touch are not the things themselves, but appearances, what he calls sense data. The real table, if it exists, is the cause of those appearances. We never see the world directly. We see light, color, shapes, and our mind builds reality from that experience. In other words, we live not in the world itself, but in an interpretation of it. Now, you might be thinking, wait, does this mean there's no real world out there? That's the next problem Russell tackles, the existence of matter. Some philosophers like Berkeley or Leibniz, the idealists, say there's no need for an external world. Everything could just be ideas in our mind. It's the ultimate sophist flex. I don't know if you're real, but I think, therefore, I am. So this video exists at least somewhere in my mind. But Russell isn't satisfied with that. He argues that believing in a world beyond our senses is the simplest explanation for why those sensations occur. We can't prove matter exists, but we can show that assuming it does makes reality coherent. That's what philosophers call inference to the best explanation. We trust what best fits the evidence. But is this the best way to get to the truth, to figure out what is real? So Russell's walking a tightrope. He keeps the curiosity of doubt, but not the despair of skepticism. For him, philosophy is not about destroying belief, it's about giving belief depth.
Now, what is this matter we're talking about? Russell says matter isn't the solid stuff we imagine. It's really a system of relations, atoms, electrons, energy. The more science advances, the less thing-like the world becomes. Matter, for Russell, is the structure that produces order in our experiences. So rather than asking what is the table made of, he's asking what pattern of experience makes the table possible. This turns philosophy into a bridge between science and metaphysics. It reminds us that what's real isn't just what we see, it's the underlying logic that holds appearances together. And that, Russell says, is where reason rescues us from
At
chaos.
first, this might sound unsettling. If we can't trust our senses, if even our table might not be real, where does that leave us? But Russell insists that philosophy's value lies exactly in this uncertainty. It frees us from the tyranny of custom, from assuming we already know what the world is. Philosophy, he writes later, though unable to tell us with certainty what is true, can suggest many possibilities which enlarge our thoughts. And that's the beauty of it. Philosophy doesn't end in answers, it begins in wonder. When you realize that even the simplest object, a table, a cup, a sound, is mysterious, the world suddenly becomes infinite again. We start to see that doubt is not despair, it's the beginning of understanding. So, what does Bertrand Russell teach us about philosophy? That it begins not in certainty, but in courage. The courage to ask whether what we see is truly what is. Socrates gave us the moral dimensions, live an examined life. Russell gives us the intellectual one, examine the world itself, for the world begins to make sense the moment we begin to question it. So if you enjoyed this deep dive into Russell's thoughts, give the video a like, subscribe, and I look forward to seeing y'all again soon. Bye bye.